Let's learn how to use Census to sync your data warehouse to Iterable. The end result of this sync will enrich user profiles on Iterable and help produce better and more personalized messaging. The first thing you need to do is go to Connections and add a data warehouse. You do that by clicking Add Data Source and then picking your data warehouse. For this example, we're using Redshift. Next, you're going to add in your data warehouse credentials and click Save Connection. Now you want to test your warehouse connection by clicking Test. And when you get these 4 green check marks, you know that your warehouse gets connected properly. Now we're going to add Iterable by going to Add Services, scrolling down until we find Iterable. And Iterable is going to ask us to add a name and API key. So now you need to go to your Iterable account, create a new API key by going to Integrations, API Keys, and clicking New API Key. Give the API key a name that makes sense to you, and then click Create. Now you're going to copy this API key. We're going to go back in to Census, paste it here. We're going to say Iterable Test. Then you're going to save the connection. And now Census has verified the service connection. So now we have our data warehouse and Iterable connected. Next, we're going to go into Models. And this is where we're going to write a model of the data that we're going to send from our warehouse into Iterable. So you click Add Model. We're going to name this Iterable Test, or whatever you'd like to name it. And in the field here, you're going to write your SQL query. It can be as simple as that, or it can be as in-depth as something like this. So this query that I've written is giving a lead score to all of the leads in the warehouse based on certain actions that they've taken. So if they've watched a webinar, they get a score. If they've created an appointment with the company, they get a score, and so on. So since I'm going to be using this lead score query, I'm going to change the name to something that makes more sense. And now you're going to test to make sure that the query works by clicking Preview. And if your query works, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see 25 example rows. So you look at that, make sure that it matches what you wanted. And now we're going to begin the process of syncing our data warehouse to Iterable. To do that, you go to Syncs. Oh, very important. You got to scroll up and save your model. So now you go into Syncs, and we're adding a new sync. So the connection that we're using is our Redshift data warehouse, and our source is the query that we just created, lead scoring query. And I want to sync data to Iterable, so there it is. And the object I want to send data to is user, but depending on your query, you might be sending data to events. So you click user, and now you decide how you want to update the destination or how you want to update Iterable. So you can use update or create, which will update the existing records as well as add new records. So if there's users in your query that don't already exist in Iterable, they will be added to Iterable if you do update and create. Or you can do update only, meaning that any records that don't already exist in Iterable will not be added. So for this, we're going to do update and create. Next, you will decide how your source and destination records will be matched. If you're familiar with SQL, this is just like a join statement. And Iterable actually requires you to match on either the user ID or the email address. So we're going to use user ID. And now you pick which properties you want to update. So you can pick specific properties, or you can just sync all properties. So if you do sync all properties, Census will put together all the fields in Iterable that match your model. So we have all this data, and before we actually run a sync, we're going to run a test. So what a test does is it's actually going to sync one record from here into Iterable to make sure that it worked. Once that loads, you can test to see if it worked in Iterable by copying and pasting the email and then going to Audiences, Contact Lookup. You paste that email address there and search the user. So to verify that this worked, we see that this user now has a lead score. That's something that we just created in the model. They also have webinar attended. We created that in our model. And also you can verify this field if you have something similar, profile updated at. So this says that it was updated within the minute. So now we are assured that the test sync worked. And now we can click next. And we can say run sync now and create the sync. Depending on how much data you have, the sync may vary in time. And now that the sync has gone through, Census tells you exactly how many records have been updated. You can click here and see details, see a little bit more information about the sync. So there you have it. Now you have synced your data warehouse to Iterable using Census, and now you have enriched user profiles that can help produce better and more personalized messaging.